I'm Liv, your emotionally exhausted, chronically online host, and every week we talk about life, relationships, internet chaos, bad decisions, awkward moments, and all the things that spiral way faster than they should. This escalated quickly, and yes, today I somehow turned a 5-minute dog walk into a neighborhood conspiracy. Buckle up.
Quick honesty before we dive. I thought borrowing a dog would be the least complicated thing I do all week. Wrong. I lied to myself like it was a short-term rental. 5 minutes, I walked out the door with confidence, and I came back with a mystery engagement ring, an accidental accusation, and a week-long neighborhood tribunal. Also, 2 people asked me for life advice after seeing this unfold. I am an excellent person to not have life advice from.
All right, scene 1, the innocent favor. Mrs. Patel from 2 doors down, the neighbor who knits sweaters for her mail carrier and knows everyone's plants by name, texts, "Can you walk Bruno for 5? Emergency, we'll be right back." I'm thinking 5 minutes. Hello cardio, hello good neighbor energy. I put on shoes that I can almost tie correctly. I grab a leash and I step outside thinking about how tiny and noble this is. I tell myself I am a responsible adult doing one small human thing. I'm also wearing sunglasses outside at 6 p.m. because I have to keep the illusion going.
Bruno is a very determined sausage of a dog, with more confidence than I possess. He has a little leather pouch on his collar, the kind you expect to hold treats, not plot points. Halfway down the block, Bruno does this dramatic roll, and for a second I'm watching his belly sun itself on the sidewalk like it's performance art. That's when my fingers hit metal. A tiny box, about the size of a Tic Tac container, tucked into the pouch. I pulled it out and froze. Slow, cinematic gasp in my head. Inside was a ring. Thin band, tiny diamond. Not cheap, not absurdly flashy. The kind of ring that says, I belong in someone else's future.
Okay, instant choices. Put it back and hope no one notices, pocket it like a normal person, or film a TikTok about finding treasure. I did what every human with anxiety does. I opened my phone and typed what to do if you find an engagement ring into Google while crouching on a neighbor's lawn. The results were not comforting. Most reputable sources suggested turning it in somewhere official, which felt like overkill for a ring found in a pug's fanny pack. So I made a decision that was just the warm-up for every bad idea I'd make in the next week. I made up a story. I returned late to Mrs. Patel's porch, ring hidden in my pocket like contraband. I say, Bruno really liked the big tree. And she says, oh good, I was worried. She is trusting, which is a fatal flaw in Bruno's neighborhood. I give her a thumbs up and walk back to my apartment, thinking I'll just keep it safe until I figure out the right adult procedure. I text my friend Jenna, I found a ring. Do I become cold and heroic and turn it into the police? She replies with 3 crying laughing emojis, and of course the inevitable, are you keeping it? And then I did that thing I hate. I invented a tiny, plausible lie to cover the first tiny, plausible mistake. I texted Mrs. Patel with the energy of someone who knows how to walk back lies. P.S. I found a ring on the walk. Thought you should know. Are you missing anything? She replies almost immediately, but not with relief. Her text is a little clipped. No, but my niece has been visiting. Could be hers. Great, I think. Mystery solved. Move on. Except I had not counted on Tim, my ex who lives across the hall and conveniently overhears everything because he's emotionally attached to drama. Tim sees my text about the ring and decides loudly and immediately that he should know everything. He storms into the courtyard like a side character in a soap opera and announces, "Someone's been stealing engagement rings in this neighborhood." Suddenly, the HOA group chat, which is normally a sacred place for passive-aggressive plant advice, lights up like a stadium scoreboard. Someone posts a blurry photo of a ring they found 2 summers ago. Someone else demands security cameras, and the neighbor from down the block privately messages me asking if I've started a new jewelry collecting hobby. I am being judged by people who have never even judged my recycling bin placement. It is chaos. The passive-aggressive HOA texts are an art form. There's the famous, anyone else notice message that is 95% ellipses, 5% accusation. There's a screenshot of my porch with Bruno superimposed like evidence. Meanwhile, Mrs. Patel's niece is suddenly in the middle of this because apparently she lost a ring at a wedding months ago and has been blaming herself. Tim, fueled by coffee and a dramatic podcast he listens to every morning, looks at me and says, "Were you trying to frame someone?" I tell him I am not staging anything. I am literally a person who thought discretion meant stuffing a ring into a sock drawer. My defense is weak because it's also true. Heartbeat moment. Mrs. Patel asks me to come over to talk in person. For a second, I rehearse confession. The honest version, the dramatic apology, the emotional owning of my folly. Then the door opens, and she doesn't scold me. Instead, she looks me in the eyes and says, "Liv, this is embarrassing, but the ring is actually mine." Pause. She explains quietly that she'd been shopping for a replacement after misplacing her wedding band years ago, and wrapped a cheap placeholder in the pouch to remind herself to switch them later. She forgot. Everyone breathes for a second. Relief floods me like someone turning on a sprinkler just for my anxiety. Plot twist, though. Mrs. Patel then says, with this very reasonable tone, "I would like it back, but could you maybe not tell the whole neighborhood that I carry jewelry in a dog pouch?" She has conditions. She wants discretion and also wants me to host her next bake sale as penance. So the ring returns, the HOA simmers down, Tim sulks, and Bruno gets a lifetime supply of pats for solving a mystery he had nothing to do with. I, on the other hand, have to live with having been the person who turned a small favor into an entire sitcom season. Here's the honest part. I spiraled because I hate being the person who admits mistakes. Anxiety loves to build little scaffolds of lies because lies feel like control for a second. But they don't solve anything. They just pile chaos on top of chaos. I made dumb choices out of fear. Fear of embarrassment, fear of being judged, fear of admitting that sometimes I'm forgetful and also terrible at small talk. Owning that is embarrassing, but also quietly liberating. I apologized, I baked 2 loaves of banana bread for Mrs. Patel, and yes, I told Tim to get a hobby that isn't policing neighbors. Hot take, never be the person who covers a tiny mistake with a bigger lie. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a paper cut and then duct taping your entire arm. If you mess up, tell the truth. It's shorter, and honestly, the fallout is usually less dramatic than whatever you're imagining while your brain runs a soap opera in the background. Also, people forgive more than your anxiety predicts. Except for Tim. Tim allowed himself exactly 3 apologies before returning to passive-aggressive commentary. Classic Tim. Recap. 5-minute dog walk, ring found in Bruno's pouch, panic Googling, small lie, HOA chaos, neighbor confrontation, ring returned with conditions, lessons learned, and 2 loaves of banana bread later, life continues. If you've ever made a tiny mistake and then tried to turn it into an elaborate cover story, I want to hear about it. Leave a review, tell me your most ridiculous unraveling, and I might read the best one on the show, anonymously, unless you're into becoming neighborhood lore. Also, not put your valuables in dog pouches. That's a rule out. If today's episode made you laugh, question humanity, or feel slightly better about your own life choices, then my job here is officially done. Go leave a review, share your tiny disasters, and help